Sounds like a B movie. Millions of males vanish. Fact is, there aren't as many nowadays. Not human males, not frogs, not fish.
Chemicals are moving us into a period of the most rapid evolution that this species has ever experienced.
From toys to shampoo, we're awash in strange new compounds, and we're only just learning that males are being hit hardest.
The scientists within Health Canada are telling the government, listen, you really have to move on this.
I'm Anne-Marie MacDonald. This Doc Zone asks, where have all the boys gone? There are many warning signs. A growing body of evidence shows that something is wrong with the sexual health of human males. Sperm counts worldwide have been cut in half in the last 50 years. Sperm abnormalities and rates of male infertility have radically increased. Rates of testicular cancer have doubled in the last 20 years. The question is, why? Scientists now believe that certain man-made chemicals are to blame. They interfere with the male hormonal system and are playing havoc with the basic building blocks of male sexual development. The problem is, these chemicals are everywhere. There was a time, not too long ago, when the Earth was a simpler place. 60 years ago, synthetic chemicals were a futuristic novelty. Since that time, the chemical industry has developed more than 90,000 man-made compounds, and the vast majority of them have never been tested for their effects on human beings.
During the last 50 years, we've learned how to create new chemicals and we've turned them loose. In the next 50, we may figure out what we've done.
It's like in a certain way we're on the Titanic and we see the iceberg, but we just can't turn the ship.
These chemicals are found in virtually every consumer product. Chemicals like bisphenol A make plastics hard and unbreakable. Other chemicals called phthalates make plastics soft and pliable. Chemicals make cosmetics smell fresh and fragrant. They make our fabrics stain-resistant and our computers flame-resistant. But have we unleashed a monster? Some common chemicals are causing profound and permanent damage to growing bodies. And for reasons we are just beginning to understand, some synthetic chemicals are far more damaging to boys. Young adult men are also at risk. Sperm counts in college-age men have fallen dramatically in recent decades. A typical young man produces less than half of the sperm his father did, and up to 85% of it is abnormal. In a fertility clinic at the University of Rochester, researchers are tracking the crisis in the quality of male sperm. This change in the quality and amount of sperm has been sudden and dramatic.
I've been here 12 years, and when I first started, of the 10 donors we would screen, we would accept maybe 7 or 8. They had really good counts, really good motility. Over time, it got harder and harder to recruit donors because we noticed of that same college-age population that of 10 people who would try out for our program, maybe 3 or 4 would have the sperm parameters that we need.
The bottom line is that the World Health Organization standards for classifying a man as infertile have moved downwards. So, for example, very early it was 60 million per milliliter. then down to 40 million per milliliter. Now it's 20 million per milliliter, and they're talking about putting it down to 10. And that's because if a man goes in for a semen analysis, you can't have too many of them classified as abnormal.
Behind the statistics are hundreds of thousands of young couples like Jack and Natalie McGowan who have struggled to conceive.
Now you're going to go get changed. I was shocked what the incidence of infertility is in our society now. And you know, when we would go to the clinic for assessments and for procedures, it was like being in an emergency room. I mean, people were lined up down the corridors.
We were very surprised to have difficulties conceiving because we were two otherwise very healthy people. So we thought, no problem. We'd be pregnant within weeks, really.
There's three things they use to assess sperm quality, and it's volume, so sperm count, and speed, so that's, you know, how mobile they are. It's mobility or motility, I think is how they call it. And the third is morphology. So I had a full team, good bench strength, and they were pretty quick, but they were darn stupid. They got lost.
Our reproductive endocrinologist even came out and he said, well, it's probably linked to environmental causes.
After 2 years and several fertility treatments, the McGowans were finally able to conceive. The chemical threat to boys is not only interfering with normal development, it may be a threat to the survival of the species. New research shows that male fetuses are being miscarried in ever greater numbers. There is strong evidence chemical exposures are killing boys in the womb.
There are more and more studies showing that before birth, between fertilization and birth, something's happening to boys. Basically, they die before they're born.
I hadn't seen anything quite as dramatic as I saw in Sarnia. Everywhere you went, you could smell this chemical smell.
Amjanong is home to one of the great medical mysteries of our time. In 2006, the reservation became known internationally for having one of the sharpest declines in male births ever recorded. Instead of the normal 50-50 split, here, fewer than half as many boys are born as girls.
We looked at the births in 5-year time periods and found that things were, relatively normal up until the early 1990s when we started to see this drop in the number of boys. And then from 1999 to 2003, there was a significant drop in the number of boys being born.
The falling male birth rate is a global phenomenon. There are now more than 20 heavily industrialized nations where male births have mysteriously declined. Since 1970, this has added up to almost 3 million fewer baby boys. But the danger is not only found in heavily contaminated communities like Sarnia. It also exists in our homes, in chemicals we encounter every day.